What if everything you thought and believed about successful buying, selling, and financing your home was wrong? Welcome to HomeWise with Michael Miget. This is where you can count on straightforward, objective advice on the right way to make the most out of every dollar you put into your home. Whether it's buying, selling, or financing, even maintaining and growing its value along the way. Coming to you from the NewsTalkSTL studios at Union Station in St. Louis.
Welcome to HomeWise. I'm Stal Ponticus with the creator and host of HomeWise, Michael Miget. And if this is your first time joining us, welcome aboard. We're glad you're with us for the show. Michael, good to see you, buddy. How are you?
I'm good, Stal. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you.
How was your week? We'll always start this out with, tell me how your week was.
I've been doing pretty well. Today is my wife's birthday, so got some stuff planned for her today. And actually, it's been a pretty good couple of days. How about you?
Good. So we've been talking about debt and debt elimination. So this is probably like, have you had any thoughts since last week or week before that maybe didn't occur to you right away?
Well, I think the one thing that always sticks in the back of my mind whenever we're taking care of certain bills, I'm always thinking, Michael says you better make sure you don't spend more than you bring in. So that's always the reminder there from what you've always told us.
Well, you will, if you violate that rule, you'll know it pretty quick. Okay, because you will see the difference. If you're spending more than you make, there's a difference there, right? So in that case, that would be negative margin if you're following along. That has to come from somewhere, right? So it would end up either your bank account would be draining if you had previously were able to save money and now you're not able to save money, so you're going the other way, so your bank account would be going down. Or, and this is what's happening to the vast majority of people today that find themselves in debt, is that your credit card balances would start going up, right? So because that money has to come from somewhere. It can't doesn't just appear out of thin air. So, this is getting back into something that I used to, and still do to some degree, but this used to be the primary focus of my business. Dealing with debt elimination, using debt consolidation as a tool to do that. So getting back into this, I've already related it to the buying and selling of a home. There's the debt consolidation purchase and a way to assist in or help make a home affordable. All right. That goes beyond what the traditional, mortgage approach would be, even though it involves a mortgage, right? Because, as we said before, your home and everything you do with it touches virtually every other part of your finances, and all the other areas of your finances at some point intersect with and touch your home. That's how integral of an asset this is. So it's the epicenter, right? The epicenter financially, the epicenter emotionally. It's the nest. It's the where we live. It's oftentimes, we refer to financially the nest egg. That's might be where the vast majority of your nest egg resides today, or your personal wealth. Mm-hmm. By the way, it's likely to continue up through into retirement. That's what makes this so important. So talking about debt, we're not straying away from that original theme of the show. The show is really wrapped around everything that has to do with a home. Okay. And this plays right along with it. So just keep that in mind. Today, we're going to dive into and focus on what I've referred to previously as the key or the most important part of a debt consolidation and debt elimination plan, which is that idea of margin, building margin. Where does it come from? Okay, so we will dive into that. I remember back when I referred to previously that this used to be the primary focus of my business. Mm-hmm. Okay, this was virtually 100% of what we did dealing with debt to help people, basically manage their finances. Okay. And for a lot of people, that begins with debt. That's the springboard into problems. It's also the springboard out of problems when you can, when you can address that. So it was, we talk to people on a daily basis about loans, using loans for consolidations, using consolidation as a tool to finance and fund a debt elimination plan, not only to deal with the debt and the payments today, but to get you out so that you actually get from where you are to where you want and need to be. And without the elimination or the wiping out, the truly wiping out of that debt, not just the characterization, which is what the consolidation does, it puts you in a position to drive an elimination plan. But unless you actually take that consolidation, the benefit of that, which is the reduction in payments, and apply it back to the debt, you get nowhere. And in fact, you actually can end up worse off than where you started. It's the potential for good, but it also has the potential for bad. But anyway, one of the most common things that we would hear when we would talk to people about what we do, what our ideas are, the strategies and all this, is about Dave Ramsey. All right. And if you don't know who Dave Ramsey is, he's the premier, debt these days. He's on the radio, he's on the TV, he's got books and courses and all that kind of stuff. So you can, if you've never heard of him, a quick Google search will fill you in, but more than likely you've probably at least heard the name. So, that is why we would commonly hear his name. Okay. And how he doesn't believe the same things that I believe, right? Because we're talking about using debt consolidation as a tool, Dave. Dave does, doesn't believe in that. So these people would recite Dave back to me. Now, understand, all right, these are people who are in debt, okay? And in order for us to be having a conversation, you pretty much need to have a lot of debt, right? Because people don't show up or help when they just have a little problem, or a little bit of debt. They wait, right? Because at first, it's not a problem. It's not a problem until it gets painful. It's like a toothache, when you get that first twinge, you're like, it could be anything. I could have just woke up with the wrong side of the bed today, And then the next week, the twinge turns to, oh, there's some pain there. Oh, maybe I was gritting my teeth, and like, you just wait and, it'll go away. And, a lot of times those things do go away. I have them all the time. I don't know if there's a dentist out there, maybe he can help me out with this. Tell me what I need to, if this is an issue or not, but it tends to go away, right? I try to take pretty good care of my teeth. So I don't think I have any issues, but that is like that most of the time. If you truly have a problem, if you have a toothache, it's just not going to go away on its own. It's going to progressively get worse. It's going to get worse. Nobody really wants to go to the dentist, right? It's like, if you made a list of the things that we want to do today, dentists would even make the list.
That's true.
Even if you have a toothache, it's still darn down near
way down
until
the pain's unbearable.
Until you can't eat, you can't sleep, you can't even think straight, and you're like, it's the only thing I can think about. Maybe we should go see a dentist, right? So debt is kind of like that. Okay, so people don't show up when they just have a little problem. They show up when they have a big problem. So. And these are people quoting Dave Ramsey to me. All right. So now think about that. All right. They're people who are, they're likely not Dave Ramsey clients. Why would they be talking to me if they were? Right. They have a lot of debt. If, Dave is pretty, effective at his teachings and what he teaches people have success with it. It's kind of hardcore. All right. But it's some tough love in there. But, if you apply it, it's effective. So for somebody's going to quote back to me, him, they have that problem. They're likely not a client, or at least not a client yet. Right. So why are they quoting them back to me? If they were, they wouldn't be my client. They wouldn't be having this conversation with me. So, anyway, I would hear this all the time. All right. And it makes me think, well, Dave must be wrong, right? I mean, he's got to be wrong because, it couldn't be me, right? I couldn't be the problem here because I've been doing this my whole entire professional career. I mean, by golly, I'm an accountant by degree.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in lending and finance, and this is the primary focus of my business. I work directly with people. I've implemented plans for people. My personal design, implemented personally by me, I know for a fact because I've seen it firsthand that it works. Okay? But Dave doesn't believe this. Okay? And it's getting in the way. So I'm like, for the good of the people, for the good of the clients, the consumer, the people that I'm talking to, I need to get to the bottom of this.
For the good of humanity.
Well, yeah, and I'm included in that, sure. So, I'm not going to, there's without some piece of selfish motive in there, I'm a capitalist, right? I like to make money. I need to make money. By the way, everybody needs to make money. Otherwise, you probably spend more than you make, So, and because spending is going up and you got to make more and, but we don't believe in doing that at the expense of the consumer. You need to deliver value. You get a commensurate value back. So you deliver value, you get value back. I do a service for them. I provide a benefit for them. I get paid. It's got to work. It's got to be good for everybody, right? So, I had to dig into this for myself. So I had to go investigate. It's not good enough to, I know who he is. I got a sense of what he teaches. I know just enough to be dangerous. I need to really I need to go through the course. I need to read his books. I need to become, I need to get in that mindset of what it is, to understand what it is, because this is the mindset, or at least the mindset of what some of the people have. All right. So I did that. And just by the way, because we don't agree, I don't necessarily believe that he is wrong. Okay. However, there are more than a few views of his that I think are short-sighted.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we have disagreements. It comes down to something. I think he is making decisions on behalf of the person or the people that ought to be their decision, right? Believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt. I don't believe in there's a bigger picture here, which is, the government taking care of the people or making decisions for the people, protecting the people. In overextension of that. Not that he's the government, but it's a similar thing there. Well, I'm not going to stand behind this idea because you could potentially hurt yourself with it if you were to use it wrong, if you were to do something wrong. So it really comes down to, we have two different definitions of consolidation. He looks at it and he's talking about it. I don't believe in it because it's not a solution to a problem. And I'll be the first one to tell you it's not a solution. All right. But we are going to dig into that. If it hasn't become apparent by now, Dave is best known for getting out of debt, getting people out of debt. Got this thing he calls debt snowball, right? So that's his system. I call mine debt meltdown, so I refer to. But if I use those terms, just understand it's the same thing. The steps are very similar. They're almost carbon copies of each other. The drill downs within the steps, there are some variations in that, but it's essentially the same thing. All right. But the biggest piece that I take issue with, that's the biggest difference, it's the key aspect of what I've already said makes a debt plan work, which is the idea of margin and how to build margin. All right. So, I've talked about margin, building margin. You've done consolidation and elimination examples in previous shows. If you haven't listened to those, you can find them on HomeWiseRadio.com, newly designed website. It's all up there. If you've been to the old one, you'll like the new one better. Trust me. Everybody I've spoken with that is
that's good.
has been like, oh, that's
Good.
much better. Like I can find it now. Like, okay, good. That's doing its job. But let's recap the steps of the debt elimination system. All right. So step one, it's really step zero, which is to stop the debt, right? Stop digging, freeze the debt. You can't hit a moving target, right? So if you're continuing to charge on credit cards, not pay it off at the end of the month, and you are continuing to accumulate debt, it's going to be really tough to get that debt paid off. All right. Step one, then the key piece of it is the creation of margin, which margin, just real simply, it's the difference between what you make and what you spend, right? So you have to you have to make more than you spend. You can't spend more than you make. There's got to be a difference there, because the only way to eliminate debt outside of something like bankruptcy or something that's going to wreck your credit, right? The only way to get out of debt is you got to pay it back. You got to pay it back, all right? By the way, when you do it that way, when you do it this way, it actually helps your credit, it builds your credit, not hurts your credit. So if you're suffering from a lower credit score now, expect that to improve if you were to embark on something like this. So there's numerous, this is kind of like an exercise program, I did it to lose weight, but I also got healthier along the way. This is similar to that. Getting out of debt, it's going to have multiple positive effects. But the key is driving that margin. It's the key to driving the plan. The speed at which you create margin determines how fast you get out of debt. All right. So if you have no margin, that's going to be pretty slow, right? Now, if you freeze the debt, right? So key step zero, freeze the debt, keep making the payments on the debt that you have. Eventually it will pay off. As those debts pay off, that's what's called an orphan payment, because you have the debt's gone and there's no payment. There's no payment associated with it now. But you got to earmark that for something, because now that's going to be the piece that continues to build your margin, and it flows. It flows through the whole thing. The faster you can build that, the faster you get out of debt. So you take that margin, you apply it to debts, and you work your way through it as you go, debt by debt by debt, rinse and repeat, and eventually you get to the end. That is how it works. Okay, that's a snowball. So the idea of the snowball gets bigger as you go along. Mines melt down. It melts down. Debt. A candle starts out thin, but by the time it gets down to the bottom, it's thicker, it's fatter. There's all kinds of different metaphors you can put with this. But that key aspect is to build margin. Let's go to break, because I know we're coming up to a space here. We will explore Dave's answer for this and how to build margin. Okay? All right. Come back.
We'll take a quick break here. Thank you for joining us for HomeWise. That's Michael Miget. I'm Stal Ponticus. We will return in just a moment. Welcome back to HomeWise. I'm Stal Ponticus with the host and creator of the show, Michael Miget. Michael, let's get back into it, buddy.
Thanks, Stal. All right. So if you are just joining us, we are talking about debt elimination, debt consolidation, my previous life. Same company, same everything, doing it. Just debt elimination was one of the main focuses of my business. I did it day in and day out, built my own system. I know it very well. All right. And would come into contact with people that believed in Dave Ramsey stuff, because he's like the premier debt guru guy, right? So if you're paying attention to that space, if it's something that you're into, you're aware of him, you know what his teachings are, and you will come to find that I believe very heavily in debt consolidation. It's my favorite way to build margin, which is a key aspect to driving a plan. Dave doesn't believe in it. All right. And we are digging into why that is. All right, which we are going to get to that in the third segment. But for right now, let's just talk about the building of the margin, because that is the key. If you have no margin, that pay down is going to go very slow, and you are more likely than not to fail with this, because speed is what you need. The cliche. Dave is a little thin on how to make this happen, in my opinion, anyway. There is no specific create margin step in the snowball system. All right. He just refers to paying back debt as fast as you can, which is true, and chipping away at debt with whatever money you can muster, which I believe in that. That's true. If you're able to do that, by all means, do that. Okay. What he does have to say on the matter is contained under a different step. So it won't make a lot of sense without kind of getting into the way his whole thing is structured. Because remember, it's a course and it's books and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like expanded and stretched out a little bit. But he incorporates this, really falls under the budget step. Hey, the budget, that word, you say budget and people run. Like, or they just tune out, or who wants to hear about a budget? Nobody wants a budget. Most people don't even have they have a budget. They don't have a formal budget that they follow and live by. I prefer spending plan or cash flow plan or something like that. But just again, I'm gonna sugarcoat it for you. It's a budget.
Mm-hmm.
All right. When you plan it, write it down and track it. There is magic in that. If you do just that, money will appear out of thin air. I promise. Almost literally guaranteed. All right. In accounting, we have there's this mantra we talk about, which is, things get better by tracking it, right? Until you track it, you really don't know how you're doing anyway, So imagine in your car, let's say you didn't have a gas gauge. Okay. And you know how far your car will go. And, you say you can drive 300 miles on a tank of gas if you fill it all the way up and you drive it all the way down. But now you got to remember, how many miles into that am I? And are you always going to look at that? People now are trained to look at the gas gauge and where that arm is. And by the way, people will still run out of gas, even with that. Now that I've said that, I will probably do that. Although to date I haven't. I've come pretty darn close. The roll up on fumes thing. But
what's even worse is when you get the if your vehicle has a warning light and has a screen that comes up that says you've got 50 miles left, and you're thinking, okay, how far can I go?
Well, you can go 50 miles. And I got the countdown thing there too, right? So, I got 17 miles. Like, I can drive. I can almost drive from where, down here at 17 miles. The problem is, am I going to want to, anyway. By the way, there's a light that flashes, but it kind of gets drowned out by all the other flashing lights on my dashboard.
It may just be a guy thing, though, because most women I know always say, well, I don't let it go below half a tank.
Yeah,
well, good for you.
Yeah, that's my wife. We're driving around. She looks over like, oh, we need to get gas. I'm like,
well, why?
I can go another 150 miles. Like, I can drive to Kansas City almost from here. Like, oh no, it's below half.
Yep.
Like, oh, okay.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
Financially.
And
yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. Unless you're just not in a space where you can get gas. But
you run out of gas.
Anyway, just by tracking, you will you will do better. It happens before you even begin to restrict spending. Right? Because what happens is there's a natural restriction that occurs. If you were to look at and write down, track every dollar coming out of your thing, right? Because now we live in the debit card, credit card, the swipe it. I guess now you can tap it. I don't do the tap thing, but that's even easier. Sometimes you don't even have to take it out of your pocket. You can just wave it, or it's in your pocket. It's close enough to the thing, or it's connected to your phone and your phone's close enough. I mean, it's like you walk by a kiosk and your phone is like, it's sucking money out of your pocket. I'm like, how do you make this stop? my son's got one of those green light cards, to teach him how to manage the money. And that, by the way, Dave doesn't believe in that either. I think that's a mistake. You're not going to escape this phenomenon. You might as well just embrace it head on and teach. We got to teach our kids about it.
Yeah.
But he's finding out that, like, you sign up for things that charge you every month, even though you don't use it every month. And he's got things that are trying to come out of there. He's got no money in it, right? He doesn't have a regular income, right? So we're just using it as a tool instead of walking around and spending cash. It's teaching some other things with us, but there's no money in it. But it's trying to take money out. Like, there's a lesson in that, son. Pay attention to that. Like, I mean, you need to have mom call. Talk to mom. Have mom call. You call it. Somebody needs. I'm not calling. Somebody needs to, you need to get to the bottom of this. Oh, well, don't worry. They can't take it out because it's not in there. Well, the second you do put money in, it's going to come straight out. And it might come out straight out like 3 times if it's been 3 months since they got paid. I mean, you never know what's building up in the background there. It's how people like wake up one day and they're like, what happened to all my money? So it's like, there's this phenomenon in science where an experiment, by observing the experiment, the results of the experiment change. And it has a name. We're not going to get into it, but this is kind of like that. So the budget, when you just look at it, if you track it, if you pay attention to it, it will get better. All right. So the restaurants, the eating out, the grocery store, the checkout line at the grocery store, the snacks, the food, the sodas, the Starbucks, the latte factor. We've talked about that in the past. So like entire books, publishing empires built on just don't go buy your coffee somewhere else besides Starbucks a day. You'll save $3 a day. It's $100 a month. And now you've got the keys to the kingdom. I mean, that's, I just summed the whole thing up for you. Saved you reading 16 books. So let's get on to Dave's fuzzy idea of creating margin, right?
Okay.
So number one, get control of your finances. Okay, it starts with a budget, spending plan, create and stick to that budget, right? So that's what we were just talking about. Eliminate the waste. Now, step 2 of that will be cut back, where you can. And then he will continue to drill down into that. You gotta cause yourself a little pain. You gotta be willing to, you're gonna have to hurt yourself a little bit to, you're gonna change. You're gonna eat, the beans and wheat. You're gonna scrimp and save, right? Because this is what he's relying on in order to come up with margin. All right, so you gotta basically figure out your own margin, all right? What you're going to do in your own budget, it's money. I mean, it's got to come out of the money that you already make, okay? Or that you're making now, the money, the money that's coming in. But you're going to restrict spending. When you do that, you'll save on average. Most people can find about $300 a month. Holy cow, $300? Really? Like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you would be surprised, the $5 here, the $10 here. Well, now that's $10 here and $30 here today with inflation and all this. If you've got 3 or 4 movies, you got your internet, you got your phone, you got your TV, then you have your basic TV channels and your pay channels, and then you might have some ancillary pay channels that don't go through your TV service. I mean, you might be paying 17 different ways, and it sounds like, oh, I don't have to pay $200 a month for TV anymore like we used to have to do to, like back in the day when like cable, that was that was a major order. That was a major bill. That thing's down pretty cheap now, except now you're just getting nickel and dime to death separately. If you want HBO, that's separate. That's a separate bill. It's a separate line item on your credit card. See, they figured out that a line item amount on a credit card below a certain amount might as well be invisible. You don't see it. You ever look at my credit card? I mean, today people charge everything, right? So you got a credit card bill that's like 7 pages long. It's like a spreadsheet, send you a spreadsheet. Like I can go cross-eyed looking at the thing. I don't even look at it anymore. 2 digits, right? Doesn't even stand out. Well, And I think the number, last time I actually looked this up, some scientific research, the number was somewhere, it was between $30 and $40. A monthly charge below $30 or $40 might as well be, if you were going to charge $10 for something, you might as well charge $19, $27, $28. There's no difference. It will not affect sales. It will not affect refunds or anything. But the second you go over, like it's either somewhere between $30 and $40, there's this magic place. If you go over that, all of a sudden it stands out like a sore thumb. And if they're not using it, then it's going to get canceled, right? So you got all these $7.99, $8.99, $9.99, $11.99, $12.99 getting like boom, 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 like a machine gun coming out of your credit card, and you never even notice it, right? Seems crazy. I can't, I don't believe you, Mike. Go look at your credit card. Maybe you're not one of the people like that, okay? But a lot of people are. I would say most people are. HBO is a big company, Time Warner. They make a lot of money. They got a lot of subscribers. Netflix got a lot of subscribers. Prime, Amazon Prime got a lot of subscribers, right? I mean, you can look at how many, we know how many people there are. Well, we know mostly how many people there are in the United States. We know how many people are on the grid in the United States that have social, and are being tracked. And we know, so you can look at how many and look at percentages, and it's a fairly, people are pretty connected these days, right? The cell phone bill, all these different bills, there's just all these things. It's not difficult to go in and say, you know what, do we really watch the Disney anymore? It was $6.99 when we signed up for it 2 years ago. Now it's $14.99, and it's got commercials. Well, that, I can say, well, it's only $8. Really, is it going to make a difference in our life? Well, by itself, no. But there's 17 other things that are $8 a month that you can let go of. There's $100 right there without even trying. The grocery store, we started shopping at Costco. Like, Mike, you just discovered Costco? No, I said we just started shopping at Costco. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It came down to, we were shopping at 6 different stores to buy all this. Oh, we go here for this and that for that. And we got 3 different delivery services coming in. This was like a function of the pandemic when you had to look. There's certain things that we have to buy. We got dietary concerns, restrictions, certain things people have to have, other things people want to have. And, we were trying to manage that. And so we got to go here for this and there for that. And so, we can get Instacart for this and ship for that. And then, they go to here. We would normally get this at Walmart, but Instacart also goes to they go to Walmart too, but you got to have a separate membership for that. Well, under our current membership, we can have them just go over here and get this. And it's like, there's a convenience, before you know it, well, boom, there's another $30, $40 a month. You're overspending on things that you were already buying just to do something. So during the pandemic, when we didn't have a lot of choices, that was okay. But now we don't have those same issues, at least to the same degree. But the systems and processes that we had set up to deal with some of those pandemic problems are still in place. So we're still overspending. So take a look at this stuff. It's not difficult to generate some money out of that. Okay. Now, Dave will tell you number 2 on his list if he gets to a number 2. So number 1 is the budget. That's the big one. Number 2 is sell the car. Sell the car. Really, Dave? Come on. Sell the car.
He's presuming you have more than one.
Presumingly, you don't need the car.
Okay.
Now he does not expound on this, what that means, right? So to me, you say sell the car. Outright sell the car, don't need the car. Now it does 2 things, right? Number 1, presumably you get some money for the car. And number 2, you either get money or you lose a payment, right? So you got an orphan payment there. Either way, you can take the cash and create an orphan payment by paying off some other debt and then freeing up some money that you can use to fund the plan. That's margin, okay? If you're in a certain situation, you might actually do both. Pay off the car, sell the car, pay the car off, get cash back, lose the payment,
Mm.
orphan the payment, use the payments, and then use the cash to pay off debt plus the orphan payment. Now you really have some margin there. It's a good margin builder because car payments are so high. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, right? Again, HomeWiseRadio.com. All the previous shows, really easy to find. You can sign up for the podcast. You can do all kinds of stuff you can do there. Go check it out. But sell the car. Now, I think what he's really talking about is what I'll call a car arbitrage, which is sell your expensive car, buy a less expensive car.
Mm-hmm.
If you have some equity in your car, sell your car, take the equity, find a car you can buy with cash. Now you re-up the car payment, right? Again, big payment, big margin builder, coupled with step number one, which was just look at the budget and make it yield a few $100 a month, builds margin. And so this is his primary way. By the way, you can also have a garage sale, sell your junk, right? That's found money. You can get a part-time job, a side hustle, start a business. He wrote it, I'm reading it, I'm reporting it. I don't know that I would recommend starting a business if you're in debt to make money to get out of debt.
That would seem to complicate everything.
By all means, it could work,
Mm-hmm.
but Dave is, one of the reasons why he's averse to the consolidation idea is because there's more risk with it than doing it this way. And so remember, he's talking to the masses. He's got to do a prescription for the masses, and he's got to talk to everybody, right? So, but I think that's risky. He would also have you stop all retirement savings, and I'm not sure I agree with that either. It really depends on how much debt you're in, how serious trouble you're in. I mean, if you're getting ready to go under, doesn't matter. If you go bankrupt and you end up in bankruptcy court, they could take that, potentially depending on what type of retirement savings it is. But if you're not really terrible off, I would not go that far. But outside of those things, that's about it. It's scrimp, save, sell, work more. There's no leverage in there. I'm a financial wizard. I'm going to spin some plates and twist some dials and flip some levers and really help you out. This is more of a psychologist approach, sit you down, stick my finger in your face and say, get, this is the FCC button moment, get you under control, right? Do it or get off the pot, that kind of stuff. So we're going to go to break. In the next segment, we're going to talk about my favorite source of margin, I think is the most powerful source of margin, which is debt consolidation. Did you mention, because I've mentioned it over and over again, Dave hates debt consolidation. So if you're listening, call in, let's have a conversation about it. Anyway, I will explain why he doesn't like it. I don't necessarily disagree with him. I just think it's short-sighted, and I think it's making decisions for people that might be better left to them and give them the benefit of the doubt. But we will get into that when we come back.
All right, we'll take a quick break. That's Michael Miget. I'm Stal Ponticus. Thank you for joining us for this edition of HomeWise. We'll be back right after this quick break. Welcome back to HomeWise. I'm Stal Ponticus with the host and creator of the show, Michael Miget, and we're going to jump back into it here. Michael, go for it, buddy.
Thanks, Stal. So if you're just joining us, we've been talking about debt consolidation, debt elimination, how to drive a plan, creation of margin, and Dave Ramsey's take on all those different subjects. And we ended the last segment talking about debt consolidation and how it's my favorite way of doing it. It's Dave's, not only his least favorite way, but he actually says it. I hate debt consolidation. And he goes into why. So we're going to dig into that a little bit, because how could we both be right? Because I've already said, of course, I think I'm right. But I've also said I don't disagree with him. All right. I don't think he's wrong. All right. I won't go as far to say I think he's right. I just don't think he's wrong. It comes down to we have two different definitions, or we're talking about two different things when we're talking about debt consolidation, and then he's making an assumption that I don't make when it comes to that. But when you look at the bottom line, we are 100% in sync, which is debt consolidation in and of itself is not a solution. It does not help you. You could actually end up paying more, potentially hurt yourself. Therefore, he doesn't like it because he's got to give advice to the masses. And there's literally like millions of people out there listening to him, taking his advice. And outside, I mean, I would say don't do this at home on your own. You need a professional to help you if you're going to do a debt consolidation, because if you do it wrong, if you do it but don't follow through, like if you only get a partial solution, which debt consolidation by itself is a partial solution. Without the full solution, you don't end up with everything that you get. It's kind of like, if you're looking at weight loss and you're going to do something, it's a two-part thing. Okay, first we do this and then you go work out. And the thing that you do over here, you're really doing to make your workout better, which is where all the benefits going to come from. And then you're going to get this thing over here. And so people hear that and they're like, oh, this sounds great. I don't really need that good of a result. So and I don't really like the exercise anyway. I was just going to drop that and I'll take the pill over here. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Except if you take the pill by itself, not only might it not work and you might not get a benefit at all, but it might hurt you. Right. And I'm making this up, so it's hypothetical, but it's just an example of, what I'm talking about. So you've got to have the plan piece of it. All right. But if you're using it responsibly, if you're using it properly, it's far and away the most powerful tool you could have. So, okay. So first off, what are we talking about when I say debt consolidation? Right? Just simply, it's where you take multiple other debts of varying balances, various interest rates, varying terms and payments. You combine them all together into a single new debt that has one balance, one rate, a one term, and then one payment associated with this. And when you do that, presumably the new debt is better in some way than all the other debt separately, right? So it either has a lower rate or it has a lower payment associated with it. It might have both lower rates and lower payment associated with it. That would be the best of all worlds, but it doesn't need it. That's not mandatory in order for it to work, but it does need to have at least one of those things, because if you're paying a higher rate and you've got higher payments, you've got no benefit to doing the consolidation. And now that doesn't happen very often because people don't bite on that, right? There's no benefit. There's no, not even a benefit that looks like a benefit, but it's really not a benefit with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because people, you can sell them a lower rate that doesn't benefit them, and you can sell them a lower payment that doesn't benefit them. We've demonstrated that in previous weeks. HomeWiseRadio.com. You can find it all on there. Dig through it. It's really worth it. It's really the last couple of weeks where we've been talking about this concept of debt and that. So you've got to have one of those two things. But there are many forms of debt consolidation. So when Dave's talking about it, he's encompassing like all different forms. So anything from, on one end of the spectrum, credit card, consumer credit counseling, right? So that's like Chapter 13 bankruptcy minus the courts. So they just, it's legitimate, and some people belong there, and it's beneficial for you if you need that. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. Right? Hurts your credit. It's not good. You still end up paying back you still end up paying back all the money. If you're going to do that, I actually think you might be better off filing bankruptcy and just ripping the Band-Aid off and doing it fast. But as people will disagree with me. I don't have strong feelings either way on that, other than neither of those things is what I'm talking about. All right. So when I talk about it, I'm talking about a debt consolidation loan. Presumably you have decent to good to, more often than not, perfect credit. By the way, most people in debt have perfect credit because that's how you get in debt. That's how you get access to the credit in the first place. You have to have a strong income and you have good credit. And there's like everybody in town wants to lend you money.
Bingo.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a behavioral thing, right? It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means nothing wrong with it on a humanistic standpoint from your end, from theirs maybe. The people that are giving you the credit, if they give you too much. But it's not a judgment on you, but credit is a behavioral trait. Okay. We've talked about that in previous weeks also. So anyway, I'm referring to a loan, right? So we're taking the multiple other loans, we're putting them together into a single loan. That new single loan in my plans is going to have a lower payment. Why? Because we're doing this to what? Build margin. Build margin, right? That's the reason why we're doing it. If it doesn't build margin, if it doesn't produce a monthly savings, not only would I not be able to sell it, I mean, there wouldn't be anything for you to buy. Like there would be no benefit. You wouldn't perceive a benefit with it. I could talk to them blue in the face. You still never do it. There's got to be a benefit in it. I'm doing it to build that margin. Okay. So that's why we're doing it. It is not. So here's the thing. All right. In my world, it's not either or. So we talked about doing the budget thing and go sell your stuff. And if you want to trade your car in, sell your car, do whatever it is on your own to build margin. I'm 100% behind that. If you want to do it, if you're able to do it, if that will work for you, if that'll do it, do it. Okay? Why wouldn't you? It will help, right? Why? More margin, faster, get out of debt, faster. The faster we go, the better chance we have of succeeding. By the way, the faster you go, the more savings you're going to get. And the sooner you get back to zero, and then you can start building true savings and wealth. So the goal is to build margin as fast as possible, which, by the way, we're going to see why that happens here in a minute with the consolidation. So it's not either or. Do all those things and look at doing a consolidation if it would benefit you. In this case, if it would help build margin. All right. So you can do those and still do a consolidation. Think of it like a supercharger that you're bolting on the top of an engine, right? It takes an engine that's already fast, built to perform or whatever, and it can make it perform better, right? Car will still be fast without it, but you bolt a supercharger on top, and now you have a much faster engine, a much faster car. So, Dave's plan, we'll just call it the efficient spending plan method, generates you about $300 a month. In my previous weeks, we've talked about what I gave a little rudimentary, simple consolidation plan there where you could save $600 a month. That was on the $30,000 of credit card debt, which is, you have credit card debt and you're listening to this, that's probably in and around the range that you're at. Difference between pre-consolidation payments and the post-consolidation payments, difference between, that's the margin, okay? So $600 and $300, that's $900 plus the payments that you're already making, because you're going to continue to make the payments you're already making on there. So that's going to put you well over $1,000, like upwards of $1,200 in our, $1,200, because the payment on the consolidated loan in this case was a home equity line, would have been another $300 a month. So you're paying $1,200 a month against that debt. it speeds the process. It speeds the process up. So in this case, that consolidation, if the spending plan was $300 and you were making payments at $300, the consolidation doubles what you're able to put, speed up and put toward that. So that makes it faster. So another point, and we've talked about this before, so I won't belabor it, but it's not a solution in and of itself. So consolidation by itself, no good, right? Because remember, in that consolidation example that I gave, that $300 a month payment, it was $900 before, it was $300 after. That was an interest-only payment. So just by paying $300 a month, the debt will never pay off, okay? Well, that's terrible. Don't do that. Like Dave, I can hear him. He's spinning around in his chair on TV right now. Don't do that. Only a moron would do that. Well, yeah, only a moron would do that if you stop there. But you're not doing it to save the money, to just say like, oh, we saved some money. Now I don't feel good because we saved some money. Now we're done. We're doing it to save some money to drive a bigger idea of a plan. A debt consolidation is a tool. It's a tool you're using inside of a debt elimination plan, a tool to drive or fund a debt elimination plan to make it work, to actually make the debt go away. So you got to remember, you got to apply the margin to the debt to get it paid off. If you don't, what happens? The funds evaporate. The orphan payments, if you don't reclaim them and put them towards the next debt, they evaporate. The money disappears. When money disappears, you don't get the benefit. You stay in debt. And if you consolidated, you wind up with more debt than what you had before, because after you paid the credit cards off, you had these credit cards there that are sitting around unpaid off. What happens to those? Well, there's another thing. Money not only evaporates if it's left sitting, but it also expands into fill the space allotted. It's like a job in time, right? You've ever heard the thing jobs expand to fill the time allotted. So if you're trying to reclaim your time, you section off the time that you're going to spend for the thing, and magically you're able to get it done in that time. Well, money happens and works much the same way. It must be some fundamental law of the universe or something, because it happens all the time everywhere. So it's if you live by those rules, you're not going to get hurt, and it'll happen fast. The faster it goes, the longer time that you're exposed, if you want to look at it that way. Dave he looks at this and he just doesn't believe ordinary people have any financial discipline or financial acumen, and need to be protected from themselves. And I just don't believe that. Not that I want you to hurt yourself, but I also have the benefit of being able to be present with you, at the time when we're looking at this, building this. I can follow you along the way. It's something that I do on a one-on-one basis. So if you find yourself in this, if any of this intrigues you, you want to learn more, you can contact me. All right. 314-275-0314. My mortgage website, GoShelter.com. And you can always find me through the show website, HomeWiseRadio.com. Also, if you're not sure, call, try, text, read, visit, follow, like, share, tune in. Maybe not today, maybe it's next week, maybe it's next month, maybe it's not you, maybe it's a friend, maybe you're got your everything's together and your friends see that and they start coming to you for advice. Hey, I know this guy, I heard him, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. You should give him a call. He's really easy and nice and fun to talk to, and he actually cracks a funny joke from time to time. And hopefully they're talking about me.
Yep.
So, but that's it.
Good.
So.
Great. That wraps up this edition of HomeWise. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got a whole bunch of information out of it. I certainly did. I'm Stel Ponticus. That is Michael Miget. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the show. Hope you'll be with us again next weekend for another edition of HomeWise.
Loans and loan information provided by Shelter Mortgage, Inc. Visit us at GoShelter.com and MLS number 192609. A Missouri residential mortgage licensee and equal housing lender. Call 888-497-2558 for additional cost information. Other restrictions may apply.